Have you ever felt that the deeper you think, the more alone you become? That the more you understand the world, the less people seem willing to listen? You are not imagining it. Throughout history, society has often feared and resisted those who see beyond the surface, not because they are wrong, but because they uncover truths that make others uncomfortable. Think of Socrates, standing in the Agora of Athens, asking questions that shook the foundation of his city's beliefs. Think of Galileo, whose telescopic observations threatened centuries of accepted knowledge. Think of Nikola Tesla, whose visions of the future were ridiculed in his own time. Brilliant minds have always been misunderstood, silenced, or ignored, not for a lack of intelligence, but for the discomfort they provoke in others. Arthur Schopenhauer, the famously blunt German philosopher, once suggested that intelligence itself is a curse. It is a burden that allows one to see the world clearly, yet alienates those around you who are not prepared to do the same. But why does this happen? Why does society resist those who think differently? The answer is embedded deeply in human psychology. Consider this. When you meet someone physically strong, you may admire them, maybe even envy their athleticism, but rarely does it make you feel attacked. When you meet someone wealthy, you might feel envy, perhaps even resentment, yet it rarely triggers a deep personal insecurity. But when you meet someone intellectually superior, someone who sees connections, patterns, or truths that escape you, the response is different. Psychologists call this the mirror effect. The mirror effect occurs when someone's abilities reflect back our own insecurities. In the presence of exceptional intellect, we are confronted not just with another's skill, but with the ways in which we feel inadequate. Suddenly, the thinker is no longer merely impressive. They become a threat. And the response is almost always defensive: ridicule, dismissal, or avoidance. This is not just philosophical theory. Social psychologists have long observed that human beings are wired to protect their own cognitive equilibrium. When confronted with ideas that challenge our worldview, the mind experiences a form of cognitive dissonance, mental tension caused by holding conflicting beliefs. Deep thinkers, by their very nature, create this tension in others. The response is rarely to engage, it is to resist. Envy, fear, and social mimicry further explain the phenomenon. We envy the intellect we do not possess, fear the truths it may reveal, and attempt to neutralize its threat through ridicule or distancing ourselves from it. Social comparison theory explains this as well. We measure our worth by comparing ourselves to others. When someone's mental capacities surpass our own, the comparison is unflattering, and human nature instinctively seeks to restore balance, often by diminishing the other person rather than enhancing ourselves. Yet, being a deep thinker is not simply a curse. It is also a remarkable gift. The same mind that isolates can innovate, create, and illuminate. The clarity of vision allows for unprecedented insights, solutions to complex problems, and the capacity to see patterns invisible to others. But there is a cost. Isolation can erode emotional resilience, miscommunication can strain relationships, and a constant awareness of societal discomfort can weigh heavily on even the most resilient intellect. Historical examples illustrate both the reward and the peril of intellectual depth. Einstein, who reshaped our understanding of reality, struggled socially and emotionally in his early years. Ada Lovelace, the world's first computer programmer, worked in a male-dominated society that often overlooked her contributions. Alan Turing, whose mind cracked codes and launched modern computing, was both celebrated and persecuted. These stories show that society admires genius in theory, but often resists it in practice. Modern society has not changed this dynamic entirely. Deep thinkers today navigate social media, professional hierarchies, and global discourse, often experiencing magnified forms of isolation. In the age of information overload, truly novel ideas are not just rare. They are often drowned out by noise and attacked by fear. The psychologist Jordan Peterson once noted that society has mechanisms to tolerate intelligence only when it conforms to pre-existing norms. Divergence invites scrutiny and discomfort. So, how can a deep thinker thrive in a world that is, at times, hostile to depth? First, understanding the mirror effect allows for self-compassion. Recognizing that others' resistance is rarely personal, it is a reflection of their own insecurities, can help ease the social burden. Second, seeking intellectual communities is vital. Solitude nurtures thought, but connection with those who appreciate, challenge, and understand your mind transforms isolation into collaboration. Philosophical salons, online think tanks, and professional networks are not just social conveniences. They are lifelines for mental health and creativity. Third, emotional intelligence becomes essential. Deep thinkers must learn to communicate insights in ways that others can digest, bridging the gap between understanding and intimidation. Humor, storytelling, and incremental revelation can make profound ideas accessible without diluting them. Finally, mindfulness and resilience training equip the mind to tolerate both isolation and criticism. Meditation, journaling, and reflective practice allow the thinker to maintain equilibrium, separating internal validation from external judgment. Let's return to the historical lens. Imagine a young Galileo, telescope in hand, trying to convince peers that the Earth orbits the Sun. His observations were meticulously accurate, yet his audience resisted, ridiculed, and ultimately punished him. Imagine Tesla, sketching visions of wireless energy, only to face skepticism and financial ruin. These were not failures of intellect. They were failures of society to tolerate vision. Even today, examples abound. Elon Musk's ventures are celebrated and vilified simultaneously. Scientific breakthroughs are met with public debate and moral panic. Intellectual courage remains both admired and feared. The challenge for deep thinkers is to navigate this paradox, to innovate, question, and challenge, while maintaining the social and emotional bandwidth to survive scrutiny. What does this mean for all of us, regardless of whether we are deep thinkers ourselves? It suggests that the fear of intellect is a universal human trait. It encourages empathy for those whose minds operate on a different wavelength, patience for ideas that disrupt comfort, and humility in the face of brilliance. Society benefits from intelligence only when it learns to tolerate the discomfort it brings. So, if you are a deep thinker, take heart. Your solitude is not a curse. It is a reflection of your clarity. Your isolation is not punishment. It is evidence of your capacity to see what others overlook. And your challenge is not simply to think, but to think courageously and to communicate wisely. Because at the intersection of isolation and intellect lies the potential for transformation. Every breakthrough, every philosophical insight, every paradigm shift has emerged from minds willing to endure resistance, to challenge the mirror, and to embrace both the brilliance and the burden of deep thought. In the end, intelligence is not merely a gift to the thinker. It is a gift to the world, if wielded with patience, resilience, and understanding. And perhaps, in learning to tolerate depth, society itself can grow, not just in knowledge, but in wisdom, compassion, and courage.